Since we're in trig class now, you've been calling this the 45, 45, 90 triangle for a very long time. The side lengths are 1, 1 and the square root of 2. You should just start to get those memorized. Okay, we're going to memorize this special triangle. But in addition to memorizing it, we're also going to start thinking of it in radians. So remember or recall that 45 degrees is the same as pi over 4 radians. So when you go over here to this column, you'll see I left it blank. I want you to write in pi over 4 because that's the way we're going to start thinking. We are changing the way we think from degrees to radians. So when you see 45 degrees or you see pi over 4, you should immediately be able to think in your mind of the other one. So let's determine sine of pi over 4. We learned yesterday that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so that's going to be 1 over the square root of 2. We also just did that in the last video. So one more thing I want to add, this is not the final answer. We should technically rationalize, which means to get the radical out of the bottom. To do that, you just multiply by the radical, and you'll end up with the square root of 2 over 2. If you're curious about how the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 becomes 2, ask me tomorrow in class. Now let's do cosine. So cosine, that was adjacent over hypotenuse. So we're going to go to one of our pi over 4s. Look at the adjacent side. That's 1 over the hypotenuse, square root of 2. So sine of 45 degrees and cosine of 45 degrees are exactly the same. So we know when we rationalize it's going to be the same also. Now the tangent of 45 degrees, if you recall, is TOA, opposite over hypotenuse, or opposite over adjacent. So I'm going to do 1 over 1, which is just 1. And there you have it. Those are your 3 major trig functions for 45 degrees, or pi over 4 radians. Now, cosecant, secant, and cotangent are all reciprocal functions. So we can make this really easy on ourselves and cheat and just go up here and flip all of these over. We don't want to flip over the rationalized version because then we'll have to rationalize again when the radical is in the denominator. So let's just reciprocate, I don't know if that's a word, reciprocate this 1 over the square root of 2. So we'll get square root of 2 over 1, which is just the square root of 2. Same thing with cosine. Its reciprocal is secant. So we'll flip over the 1 over square root of 2, get square root of 2 over 1. Anything over 1 is itself. And then lastly, cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. Well, 1 over 1, that's still 1 over 1, which is 1. So you can see the 45, 45, 90, or pi over 4, pi over 4, pi over 2 triangle really isn't that complicated. Now the goal here, this is your little cheat sheet, so to speak, but the goal is to have this and this memorized. In your head, when I say sine of pi over 4, you go square root of 2 over 2. It'll start to come after you work with it for a while. So we want to start to memorize these values because they will pop up a lot. Alright, so now let's do the 30, 60, 90 triangle.